Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am broadcasting to you live from beautiful Budapest, Central Europe. Okay everyone, today IELTS speaking part 2 and 3, and as usual our materials, they come from our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS. And for general IELTS, be sure to check us out at GIELTS help.com. On both of those websites, we have loads of incredible materials for you to get high IELTS band scores, including 6 original practice exams, over 100 hours of video lessons, and a fully interactive course for you. Hi Begzod, hi Harminder. Welcome members. Hi everybody else who's joining in. Good to see so many students. This is what our websites look like. This is our academic IELTS website. Click that big red button to join. And for general IELTS, it's this website here with the green background. Click that big red button to join there if you're a general IELTS student. You can also get our books, our exam books from Amazon, your Amazon store. Search for AE Helps Academic IELTS or GE Helps General IELTS. If you have questions, send me an email. My email is adrian@aehelp.com. That's my academic IELTS email address. And our schedule for the coming weeks, ladies and gents, pay attention. The schedule, as I'm sure many of you saw today, I already posted it in the community bulletin board. Hi, my dong. This is our schedule from the 13th today until just about the last day of the month, the 30th. We're kicking it off today again with speaking part 2 and 3. Tomorrow, some reading strategy for academic IELTS. Then we'll target a task 2 question. And then on Saturday, a members chat class. Members, please, don't forget, send me your requests for these special classes for you, okay? I think one of our members was jokingly asking to maybe do 2 members classes per week. Aigul, was that you? I think maybe. Or maybe Paula. But it was a good suggestion, okay? So if you have those kinds of ideas, feel free to express yourself. I've been thinking about it. So there's a very good chance that in the near future we will do 2 members chat classes each week, okay? I'll keep you posted on that. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no class as usual. And then back on the 20th with some more speaking, reading task 1 diagram. And again, that members chat class. And then the last week of the month, we're doing speaking, listening, another listening to get a full listening exam, and then a members chat. Okay? Yeah, sorry, Aigul. That was Paula. All right. Okay, students, let's get right into it. Speaking part 2, let's take a look at today's question. Okay, this is a speaking class. And it's a little bit tough to get audio going both ways. You can hear me. I can't hear you. We have over 100 students in right now. Likely a little bit later on, we'll have even a couple hundred. So you can imagine how tricky that would be. But you can still speak at home or wherever you are. Okay, if you're sitting in your car, pay attention to the road if you're driving. But if you're parked or if you're sitting in your office or in your bedroom or something, then make sure to repeat me nice and loud, okay? So repeat, repeat, repeat. I grew up on the west coast of Canada, beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver Island. My hometown is a city called Victoria. And I speak a west coast dialect of English, okay? So the English that I use is very similar in pronunciation, word choice, slang, etc. to California, state of Washington, Oregon, so the West Coast, okay? Alaska. It's one of the clearest pronunciations of English in the world. So it's good to copy me, good to repeat what I say, okay? Try it out, don't be shy. All right, ladies and gents, part 2, let's get right into it. Talk about a river, lake, sea, or ocean that is important for your country's economy. Okay, that is important for your country's economy. All right, and then what is this body of water? How was it used in ancient times? How is it used today? Why is it important for your country's welfare? So those are your questions, and then you have 1 minute to prepare what you're going to say, and you will have 2 minutes roughly to talk about this. Okay? So careful, don't jump the gun. I see Amardeep is already ready to go. Amardeep says it's Sindh River, which is fine, Amardeep, but just before you really get into it, be 100% sure that you've made a correct choice, okay, of what you want to talk about. So before we do that, remember, students, this is part 2. So this is your cue card question, okay? So before you really get into it, you need to identify what? What do you need to do? What's your step number 1, students? So Baghdad says, first, students, pay attention that you're talking about a place. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about a place. So that's our first step here, right? And when we're talking about a place, what should we discuss? Okay, what's important to include to make sure that we have clear communication? So talking about a place. What should I include? What should I make sure to mention? Tina says, first, talk a little bit about its appearance. Yeah, and with a place, that's a really good idea. It's really good, Tina, to keep that at the top of the list. So the location and its appearance. So we'll even do it like this. So first, location and appearance. Okay, absolutely. Just like with a person, a place, or an object as well, if we can't visually see what it looks like, it's hard to understand what a person's saying. So again, humans are very visual. We love to picture the world around us. That's why many of you are in this IELTS class. You're not just listening to a podcast. A lot of students do that as well. But students prefer a teacher moving in front of a board because we're visual. We learn, we understand better visually, right? So you need to do the same, even with speech, create something visual, okay? So location and appearance. Humans are visual. Okay, then what else should we do? And this will hold very true for this question. So there are some good ones, Aigul. Send me an email and I'll let you know, okay? So, yeah, there we go. Okay, Baghdad says something about the history, right? So with locations, that's where you have this past, present, potentially future concept coming in, right? So what was it, right? What was it, and then what is it today? Kind of linear thinking, right? So the history. A bit about the history. All right, great. Third, we want to talk about its current function. All right. And within that current function, who uses it? Okay. So this is true no matter what place you're talking about. If you're talking about a landmark, if you're talking about a river, if you're talking about an important building, if you're talking about a place of entertainment or a place of work, it doesn't really matter what this cue card question specifies, okay? So yes, it's very important to pay attention to these questions for sure, but regardless, so even without thinking of the specific questions, When you know that you are talking about a place, talk about these 4 points. Okay? So, the location that we want to choose today is something that everybody can talk a little bit about. Okay, so I was thinking about, you know, the Danube River. I'm in Budapest. The Danube is a river that cuts through most of Europe. It's a very important river historically, economically, absolutely. But maybe not everybody is familiar with the Danube. So let's pick a topic, students. Let's choose a body of water that everybody can kind of talk about, okay? So what would be a good choice? What would be a good pick or a good choice of water that everybody can kind of say, hey, I know a little bit about that, and I think I can talk about that? Begzad says, hey, why not one of the oceans? Yeah, I think, Begzad, that's a great idea. Okay, so one of the oceans we could talk about for sure. Which one, guys and girls? A river would be okay too, but an ocean is great too. So a river is good, Pachu, but an ocean is just as good, okay, if not even better. All right? So many countries have some kind of ocean. Nile's okay as well. Ava says we could go with the Atlantic Ocean, the big ones, the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean. Sure. Let's talk about the Atlantic Ocean. All right. So for today's topic, let's talk about the Atlantic Ocean. All right. So here are my notes. Okay. In my notes, I'm going to talk about the Atlantic Ocean. What can I say about the appearance? So just really quickly, you can try this, students, you can try this with a specific river or a lake later in your own time and then send me that recording. But for now, let's do one that we can all talk about, okay? So let's talk about the Atlantic Ocean, all right? What does the Atlantic Ocean look like? What can we talk about its appearance or its location? Where is the Atlantic Ocean located? Where do we find it? And it's important for most countries' economies. So, Begzad, even if your country is located in Central Asia, yeah, you could still talk about the oceans because the oceans arguably are quite important for most countries' economies at some point in their trade routes. Okay? And yes, I'm sure that the Dead Sea in Jordan, lots of information to talk about. Like I said, the Danube here in Budapest, also lots to talk about. But let's find common ground here, okay? Let's talk about a piece of our body of water that we can all talk about. All right, so share. So the Atlantic Ocean, where is it? Location? So these are my notes, okay, in my 1 minute. So I'm showing you what I would write down. I probably wouldn't write down Atlantic Ocean, by the way. That's just so we have the topic picked out, okay? So in my 1 minute time, where is it? Yeah, Khaldun, absolutely mentioning the size of the ocean is a good idea. Henry, North America, South America are on one side of the Atlantic Ocean, sure. So use your prepositions here. Okay, so Limon says between America and Europe. Here's a short form of between. Okay, it's more than just the Americas. So it's Americas, Europe, Africa, Antarctica borders the Atlantic, Greenland. What else can we say about it? Okay, Greenland is not a continent, Ava. Greenland is an island. Okay. Yeah, Pin Lee, thank you. One of our members. So good, keep it simple. Okay, don't forget your quantitative language, students. So when you're practicing your part 2 responses, always remember, okay, I have to use qualitative language, like it's the second largest in the world, and it's thousands of kilometers across, right? So it's only smaller than the Pacific Ocean, and it's thousands of kilometers across. Quantitative language really can bump up your score, so keep that in mind, okay? Can we say anything else about its appearance? Begzod, did you just look it up on Wikipedia? Begzod says it's 106 million square kilometers. Yeah, you just Googled it. Okay. Yeah, there are beautiful islands, coastlines, absolutely. So beautiful islands, coastlines. Okay. Okay, so don't get too lost in the description. Okay, sure. Great. So far, so good. All right, we got a little bit about the appearance. Now, history. What's the history? So think ancient times, a long time ago. Okay. So what was the history of the Atlantic Ocean? In the past, how did people, okay, so think like 1,000, 2,000 years ago, how did people use the Atlantic Ocean? What was kind of the main purpose of the early boats, of the early sailors with the Atlantic Ocean? What did they use it for? Okay, so Amardeep says probably used for war, for trade maybe. Trade was probably more recent, but sure. Okay, war, trade. What else? Human transport, sure. Okay. Fishing, sustenance. Yeah, absolutely. Fishing, sustenance, food. Yeah. Good. And discovery, right? People were discovering the world by way of oceans a long time ago. So remember, it's not so long that people were unaware of the other parts of the world, because the oceans are so great and so dangerous for those early boats that they were difficult to cross. So lots of great information coming into this response, right? So discovery. Okay, so those were the early years. Now again, remember, your quantitative language. So 5 centuries or before, right? So we're going back to the time of Columbus, the exploration of North America and so on. So we're going 5 centuries or 6 centuries into the past, so 1400s, 1300s, and so on, right? Good. All right. What is it used for today? What is it used for today? So don't get carried away. You only have 1 minute for your notes. So you need to be, quick. You need to pay attention to each of your questions here, right? So we're talking about the history. We're talking about the current function. So this is in line with what we need to discuss no matter what kind of place we're talking about. And our card is asking, how is it used today? Okay, so what is it used for today? Okay, Amardeep says it's used for carrying heavy materials, large, heavy materials, okay? Yeah, absolutely. So used for large, heavy cargo transport, right? Objects that we can't really put onto planes, like from Japan sending cars over to parts of Africa or Europe, right? Great. So it's used for that. It's used for power generation, potentially. Yeah. Okay, could be. What else? There's one big one. Visualize, students. You have to see the world. When I visualize the Atlantic Ocean and I visualize the boats, what kind of boats do I see? Okay, I still haven't seen any of you say this. Okay, Begzod, good. So Begzod says tourist destination. What kind of, I Google, very good. There you are. Now you're reading my mind because you started visualizing. So cruises, cruise ships, tourism. Yeah, absolutely. All right, fantastic. So lots of great information now. So used for large, heavy cargo transport, maybe some power generation. I might not talk about that. That's kind of an awkward one. But definitely tourism, cruise ships. There's still military, and there's still other types of purposes like fishing as well, right? So there's huge fishing. But tourism is a big one that exists today, which didn't really exist in the past. So 500-600 years ago, people really didn't cruise the Atlantic Ocean. Can you imagine? Hi, Captain, I'm here for a cruise for the next 3 months on this ship, even though it might be dangerous and sink. I'm going to have a bit of fun. Does the boat have a hot tub and a swimming pool? No problem. So, yeah, tourism is a big development. It's a big advancement compared to past centuries, right? Okay, fantastic. Who uses it? All right. Military, tourists, businesses, right? Okay, good. And then don't forget, there's always this last important question. Why is it important for your country's welfare? Okay, so here we'd have to pick a country. Congratulations, chemistry, for scoring 7 on your IELTS. That's fantastic. Good for you. 7 means a very good user of, it means a good user of English, which is great. Chemistry, being a good user of English is good. Pachu says the Atlantic Ocean is a place for penguins. Yeah, tourists love watching those penguins. Absolutely. Okay, so why is it important for your country's welfare? This means that how does your country prosper from the Atlantic Ocean? So here, I know some students are not on the Atlantic Ocean. You might be on the Indian Ocean or some other ocean, but you can think about it the same, right? Usually countries that are on an ocean have a lot of seafood, right? So food source, delicious seafood, and business. Okay, import, export, right? So all of those come in mind. So have a look. So in your 1 minute preparation time, you should be able to think about this much information. So 60 seconds should be enough to think about, okay, Atlantic Ocean between the Americas, Europe, Africa. It's the second largest. It has lots of beautiful islands. Its color is light to dark blue. It's been historically used for war, trade, human transport, as a food source, for discovering continents, islands, animals. A long time ago. Nowadays, it's used much more as a means of transporting heavy cargo and for tourism. It's used by the military. It's used by tourists and businesses. It's important for my country as a food source, allowing restaurants to serve delicious seafoods, allowing the citizens to buy those seafoods in stores, and then business and trade and tourism for economic growth. Fantastic. So now, put it all together in a 90-second, 120-second Band 9 mini speech. Ready? Last step in your 1 minute. Okay, don't forget. What is your last step? What is your last step in that 1 minute note-taking time? Tina says, come up with that first sentence. Yeah, absolutely. So, and practice this at home. You're right, Tina. Good. Good for remembering. Good for you. So when the examiner says, okay, now we shall begin, please begin speaking, have that first sentence ready. Something interesting I noticed, students from IELTS candidates, is that when they do not have that first sentence ready, how long do you think the average student, I've actually tested this with lots of students, so I know this for a fact. How long do you think the average student in IELTS takes to start talking or answering the question when they do not have their first sentence ready? This is food for thought. Okay, it's food for thought. What do you think? Yeah, around 20, okay? 15 to 20 seconds, okay? So keep that in mind. And I've noticed this testing many students. So when students do not have their first sentence ready, it will often take them, in most cases, 15 to 20 seconds to get the first piece of useful information out. That cannot happen. Okay, that should not happen. 20 seconds is a significant amount of time from your 2 minutes. That's really bad. Okay, you really need to get that first sentence out in the first 3 seconds. All right. And you'll notice this. If you don't believe me, when you're practicing with your partner or in class, just pay attention to this. When they don't have that sentence ready, just pay attention to the time. You'll notice that, oh, wow, really, 15 seconds has gone by before the student says, well, I suppose that the body of water, which is, so pay attention. So let's get our first sentence ready. Mode says, in the Atlantic Ocean, there's a big quantity of gas and petrol. That could be useful mode, but I wouldn't use that as my first sentence. Okay. What's a good first sentence? It should be direct. It should answer the question directly. Okay. So we'll start our response here. Remember the card, okay? Everybody, the card is in the stream description with the other questions. So here's the card. Talk about a river, lake, sea, or ocean that is important for your country's economy. Begzod says, the ocean that has played a fundamental role in the development of my country, Uzbekistan, is the Atlantic Ocean. This ocean is the second largest in the world, and its size is over 100 million square kilometers. Yeah, and if you don't know if it's 100 million, Begzod, you can just say it's millions of square kilometers, okay? Rekha, you're off topic. You're saying the Atlantic Ocean is the greatest creation of nature. I don't know if I agree with you on that. There are a lot of great creations of nature, but the bigger problem is that you're not targeting the question. Notice how Begzod, Rekha, targeted the actual question, okay? Your first sentence, students, should always target this part of the question, the first part of the question, okay? That's what your first sentence should target when the examiner starts you, okay? Gursharn, even more direct. So Gursharn Soni says, there are various rivers in my country which are useful to the economy of the country, but today I'm going to describe this. That's like 15 seconds already, Gursharn. I want you to get the word Atlantic Ocean out in the first 5 seconds. Okay? Baljit, let's all stick with the Atlantic Ocean for today, okay? Syed Yasser says, the Atlantic Ocean is one of the most important bodies of water commercially for my country. Okay, good. Syed, that's a good start. Amardeep says, the Atlantic is known as one of the most popular oceans in the world, which is the second largest and potentially the most important body of water for my country. Amardeep, just imagine that right now you're living in Italy or France or the UK or something like that, okay, in England. So just visually put yourself there, all right? Pinley says, the Atlantic Ocean is an important cargo route for my country. Pinley, I would say water wayfare. Okay, the Atlantic Ocean is an important water wayfare for my country's economy. So let me get mine out there, kind of build off of Pinley's. Because the reason why I said that, Pinley, is because you're really narrowing your response by saying cargo route. Okay, cargo route is maybe a little bit too specific for a first sentence. All right. Harminder, that's good too. The oceans play a vital role in my country's economy. Here I would like to talk about the Atlantic Ocean, which is the second largest in the world. You don't need to repeat the word ocean in each sentence, students, so careful with that. Okay, you don't need too much redundancy, but that's a good start. So the Atlantic Ocean is definitely the most important water wayfare for France. For France's commercial development. Okay, and name your country. Okay, so even if you realize that, okay, the examiner knows we're sitting in India or the examiner knows we're in China or whatever, just name your country, okay? Wayfare means the route, okay? A traveling route, Syed. That's a wayfare. It's a route that can be traveled. It could be water or it could be on land as well, okay? Allows you to pass. All right, and then now we can start adding to this. So here we look at our notes and we start stringing together the information. So we give a little bit of information, all right? So just like that, step by step, put these together, students, between America, Europe, and Africa, second largest, or as Baghdad did, it's millions of square kilometers. The first question, Baghdad says, what is this body of water? So this question, the what is this body of water, okay, you've said it's the Atlantic Ocean, but the appearance of the Atlantic Ocean is what it is. Okay, it's not just the name that humans give it, but visually what it actually is. Okay, if I'm an alien on another planet and I say, oh, we have some incredible blickblitz and they are blickblitz, then you're like, okay, what is that? I just told you the names of places or something that you have no idea what it is, so I need to describe it for you. To an alien, if you say Atlantic Ocean, it's just like me saying black. Okay, so that alien will understand much better when you describe what it looks like. All right? So that's why you need to add that in there. There's a good question. All right, so as many people know, you can add that in there, right, to pay respect. So as many people know, the Atlantic, and you don't even need to say ocean because we just know what the Atlantic is. So the Atlantic is the second largest ocean after the Pacific, and it is situated between we can name them, between between the Americas, Europe, and Africa. Okay, you don't have to go overboard with the geography. Africa. Its color can range from deep blue to crystal clear. Okay, and it doesn't have, you don't have to say where. Okay, let's see what you've put up there. Priyanka, you don't have to talk about the Atlantic Ocean, but just for this class, we're talking about it because it's common ground. Many of us can talk about it. Okay, all right. So a little bit about the description there. If I've forgotten something, I use my notes. I look at my notes. Make sure to look at your notes. Okay, so I'm forgetting a little bit of this quantitative information. That might be a good idea to include. That will help your IELTS band score go up. If I'm not mistaken, it is millions of square kilometers in surface area and several thousand kilometers across. Okay, and so now I've described what it looks like. So my next step, of course, is to give a little bit about the history. Give me a few sentences, students, about the history of the Atlantic. So remember our notes here, and keep your logic. So it's millions of square kilometers in area, thousands of kilometers across. Tell me a little bit about its history, because remember the question. The question says, how was it used in ancient times? Okay, so you're paying attention to that question, and when you're talking about a location, you're thinking history anyways, right? So give me some good sentences. Here is what we wrote in the notes for history: war, trade, human transport, food source, etc. Give me some information. Law 95 me is asking, is it okay if we give false information? Yeah, absolutely. It's okay if your information is not perfect. Just make sure it's believable. Okay, Law 95, if you say the Atlantic Ocean is hundreds of kilometers across, people would be like, really? You don't know that it's thousands, or you don't know the meaning of the word thousands? So it has to be believable. It has to be believable. Marina, yes, you're right. The etymology of the word Atlantic coming from Atlantis, but that's details. You're going off topic, and you have to be careful, Marina, not to go off topic, because you might get lost and not cover important questions to get that full band score. Okay. Andrew Gluhi says the Atlantic Ocean started to play a significant role in trade around the end of the 15th century when America was discovered. Okay, good. Andrew, that's good. So you're getting to already the part where it was used for trade. Good for you. Okay. Priyanka says historically, it is one of the largest transportation bodies in the world. Sure. Muad says the Atlantic Ocean played an important role in the economy of Morocco. It was used in transport between Morocco and Africa as far back as the 16th century. Remember, Maud, we want to do a little bit of history, because the question is asking you, how was it used in ancient times? Don't jump that question. Okay. So there was another good sentence there by Hiva. Hiva says, if I'm not mistaken, a person named Christopher Columbus crossed the Atlantic and discovered much of North America. That's good. Igul says it used to be the main means of transporting goods and people before the advent of airplanes. Right, Igul? That would be okay as well. All right. Sure. So here, again, keep it logical. If I'm not mistaken, it's millions of square kilometers in surface area and several thousand kilometers across. Due to its large size, it kept much of the world a secret from various civilizations. Therefore, one of its earliest functions was the discovery of distant continents and cultures. If memory serves me correct, an explorer by the name of Christopher Columbus used it to discover North America. Okay, so I have to be careful not to go off topic, and I just remembered I'm not talking about the fact that I'm from Britain or the UK. I'm saying I'm from France, so I might want to choose a French explorer that explored some of the world, okay? But importantly here, students, what I want to show you is that you're connecting information. So when I describe the size, okay, of the Atlantic Ocean, keep in mind that you can connect that to the other questions, okay? So you can connect size to function. So if you're in India and you're talking about the Nile, or you're talking about the Indian Ocean, and you're talking about its size, don't just jump to function and not make that connection, right? Why is a certain river very valuable to the country? Because of its size, because of the direction that it goes from east to west, and so on, right? So Marina says, the Atlantic Ocean was actively used in competition between England and Spain during geographical discoveries. Yeah, so here, again, remember, I'm talking about France. I'm from France, so I would adapt it to that country in this case. Andrew, don't go off topic. So we're not talking about disaster of the Titanic, although it's true. We're talking about the card, which is, what is the body of water? How was it used in ancient times? That means, how is it used in ancient times for your country or your country's economy? Okay? So stay on target. All right? Okay, so I'm going to maybe just change this to Britain. Keep it a little bit more simple. Okay, then Christopher Columbus will make sense. All right. So here I say, therefore, one of its earliest functions was the discovery of distant continents and cultures. If memory serves me correct, an explorer by the name of Christopher Columbus used it to discover North America. Aside from discovery or adventure, the Atlantic Ocean has been an extremely important food source for the people of Britain going back hundreds of years, and as such, a major part of its economy. Okay, so don't forget the original question, students. Okay, Riaz, you have a good idea there too of using it for salt. So don't forget the original question. The original question is talk about a body of water that's important for your country's economy. Why is it important for its welfare, right? So you have to target that information. Okay, so I have my topic, some definition. I'm talking about its history. Now I want to talk about its current use. So give me some sentences of how it is used currently. And here's a hint. If you want to get a band 8 or a band 9, keep your information connected. So don't just use words like therefore and after that and nowadays, but actually connect with the use of information. How can I connect information here with the way that it's used today? This is a really good question. So what can I use that I stated here in the history to connect with how we use the Atlantic Ocean in Britain today? Okay, what can I do? Remember my notes. It's used by tourism, it's used by businessmen, it's used to transport heavy cargo, it's tourism, cruise ship. So what can I do? The question is in the stream description, students. Here's the original cue card. Okay. So how can I connect what I just said about Christopher Columbus discovering North America, fishing, to what it's used for today? Okay, what can I say? Remember those cruise ships. Just give me the full sentence. Welcome to the channel, Gobinda Sharma. Talal, sure, you can start with in addition. Aigul, yeah, begin with in the modern era. But give me more. It helps the great migration of people. Sure, Marina. So connected to what we said about Christopher Columbus. Pachu says, as I said before, sure, or in regards to what I just mentioned, today's usage, but continue, students. So finish your sentence. What can I say? Okay, what can I say to make it nice and cohesive and coherent? Okay. Yeah, so Baghdad says the discoveries of sailors like Columbus have led to the massive Atlantic Ocean tourism industry of today. Very good, Baghdad. Yeah, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Perfect, okay. Why do we have cruise ships going around the world today, taking people to all of these beautiful islands and places? Well, because people like Christopher Columbus discovered these places, we mapped them, and now we can use them as tourist destinations. Absolutely. Okay, so since much of the world, or much of the Atlantic, has been discovered and mapped by explorers such as Columbus, these days, millions of tourists leave the ports of England or leave the ports of the UK on massive cruise ships around this beautiful ocean. Okay, so just showing you how you can connect that, okay? This growing tourist industry has become a vital part of the country's economy. Okay? It employs thousands of people and so on and so forth. So you get the idea, students. You get the idea, all right? So connect information. Okay, let's go from the top here. Just repeat after me. The Atlantic Ocean is definitely the most important waterway for Britain's commercial development. As many people know, the Atlantic is the second largest ocean after the Pacific, and it is situated between the Americas, Europe, and Africa. Its color can range from deep blue to crystal clear. If I'm not mistaken, it is millions of square kilometers in surface area and several thousand kilometers across. Due to its large size, it kept much of the world secret from various civilizations. Therefore, one of its earliest functions was the discovery of distant continents and cultures. If memory serves me correct, an explorer by the name of Christopher Columbus used it to discover North America. Aside from adventure, the Atlantic Ocean has been an extremely important food source for the people of Britain, going back hundreds of years, and as such, a major part of its economy. Since much of the Atlantic has been discovered and mapped by explorers such as Columbus, these days, millions of tourists leave the ports of UK on massive cruise ships around this beautiful ocean. The growing tourism industry has become a vital part of the country's economy. I read an article just the other week that the cruise ship tourism in the UK accounts for roughly 2% of national GDP. Okay? So just like that, again, connecting among those ideas. And then the examiner will say, okay, that is the end of part 2. Now we will continue with part 3. I will ask you some questions related to the topic of part 2. And then you go on with part 3. Okay? So again, GDP, PEDRUM, is the acronym for Gross Domestic Product. So that's what the country produces and gives the value of the country. It's Gross Domestic Product. Okay? Tai Cookie, I will slow down a little bit. Okay? But remember, I'm not speaking too quickly for IELTS. In IELTS, they will speak even faster. And I'm sure that students who took the IELTS will say that, yeah, the examiners can speak very quickly in the IELTS speaking exam. It's natural English, right? IELTS is not English as a second language class. You have to remember that, students. It is natural English. Okay? All right, keep that in mind. Don't be surprised. And then you go on to part 3. And part 3 will look something like this. Okay? Let's talk about trade and commerce. Of course, that's related to part 2. Okay? So the question is, why is it important for countries to trade goods and services with each other? Can you give some examples? So then you remember your part 2 and part 3. Okay? So you want to connect. This will be my last example for today. So here it is. Well, perhaps the main reason it is advantageous to trade among nations is because they can gain products which are unavailable in their own regions. Like the UK, which imports high quality lumber from Canada across the Atlantic. Okay, so don't forget to make connections from part 3 to part 2. That will help increase your IELTS band scores. Okay, that will help increase your IELTS band scores. All right, students, that's all the time I have for today. I really wanted to do a little bit more of part 3, but I think I'll push that forward into next week classes. Tomorrow we're going to do academic reading. So for today, just focus on this part 2 response. And your challenge is to try to give an original answer. Not just try, but do. Okay, give an original answer to this part 2 cue card question. Of course, you can pick a body of water that's a river or a lake or some other body of water that's important for your country's economy. And then you can record your own answer on your phone and send it to be my email. My email again is adrian@aehelp.com. Please send it as an MP3 so I don't have to download it to my computer. I don't like doing that. Okay. Students, remember, keep these steps in mind when you're talking about that location. The appearance, the location, okay, quantitative information, the history, current function, who uses it, okay? You're very welcome, Begzod. You have a nice day as well. Thank you so much, students, for watching. And remember, members, send me requests for the members' classes. Please, members, send me requests for members' classes. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know where you're having difficulty. Students, go to our websites. Click the big red button at gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Join our courses. For academic IELTS, check us out here at aehelp.com. Click that big red button. Join us there. Have an awesome, awesome rest of your day. Remember, this is a supercomputer. You just need to use it. Turn it on. Keep it going. All right? You can learn 2 languages, 3 languages, 5 languages. If you put your mind to it, you certainly can. Much love to all of you from Budapest, Hungary. See you all tomorrow. Bye for now.